We're gonna talk about K-State football yet too.
And commissioners, the meeting is live.
Well, welcome to the February 10th meeting of Raleigh County Commissioners. Stand and join the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair.
Do we have any public comments today? Commissioners, John.
Okay, well, Thursday, I spent most of the day in Topeka at KAC's annual County Government Day at the state capitol. Had the opportunity to meet with some area legislatures or contract lobbyists, chat about recent legislation and the local challenges and issues we are facing. Also had the opportunity to chat with other county affiliates and groups, as well as other commissioners from around the state while on site as well. Really a pretty good day, pretty productive. Thursday afternoon, I attended the February meeting with the Crisis Intervention Team here at the BOCC board chambers. We discussed several items, including their frequency, time, and dates for future meetings, confirmed some possible new members potentially for the board, discussed the 2025 CIT class that will be held sometime probably in July, most likely. Also discussed both a dispatch and supervisory level CIT class to be held at a later date. And kind of started talking about a de-escalation train the trainer class that could be incorporated into one of those as well. Thursday evening, attended the 76th annual meeting of the Raleigh County Conservation District at Potroff Hall after a very delicious catered dinner from Nico's this year. Really good. Yeah. We heard from several speakers and several local awards for conservation efforts were given out. And as usual, they had the annual meeting, which was held by the board of directors in the midst of all that as well. So pretty good time as usual. Friday morning, I met with Jeff Wick, President and CEO of WTC at their new office in the new K-State office building there on campus. Some of the items we discussed were ongoing efforts for broadband in the area, and in specific, the K-18 Ogden corridor that discuss RHIDs, and it's just rural economic development efforts as a whole. Some good ideas were bounced around by both during that meeting. So met for about an hour and a half or so. Got some ideas going for the Ogden corridor potentially next. When they get through some of the two big projects they're working on currently. Friday evening, I attended, I guess I'm going to call it a soft opening of the new exhibit at the Raleigh County Historical Museum. They did an outstanding job putting this together over the last 6 weeks. Thoroughly impressed on how well it was done. Really doesn't even look the same. From start to finish, it really doesn't. And they really kind of, not also did they just update to some modernized things, technology included, but really did a good job incorporating bits and pieces of local history and kind of all the things here in Raleigh County that are incorporated in that. Did a real good job just intertwining all those things. So thought they did an excellent job. If you haven't had the chance to see it, it's worth the effort, and it's free on top of it. So can't go wrong there. So I would say check that out ASAP. Saturday afternoon, I attended K-State KU men's basketball game at Brandwich. Broke the curse.
You're not the
I'm
curse.
not the curse anymore. I was worried about that the entire time. I'm like, this is the one game I want to make sure that we get. As we were mentioning earlier, we've won 3 times in a row here at Bramlage now, which is great. It was a game the Cats really came out firing and just didn't quit. And the score didn't really indicate how well we really played. We kind of struggled against that press when they put it on kind of towards the end of the game there, but I think we can probably work through and finish that out, but got the record back up over 500 at 12-11. Unfortunately, the women didn't fare very well down in Stillwater. I'm not for sure what happened there. They lost by 30, but just wasn't their day, I guess. Still got a lot of season to fight for. So, and then yesterday I watched Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, and of course the Eagles beat the Chiefs 40-22. Ouch, that was kind of ugly. I guess for all the good luck and good fare that the Chiefs have had during the regular season and the playoffs ended pretty quick. Yeah, it wasn't there, that's for sure. So good news is now we got to wait till August and K-State and Iowa State and Ireland for next real football. So a long ways away, but it'll come fast. That's all I've got.
Okay, well, I don't have really anything. I spent Thursday afternoon, Friday in bed, not feeling well. And Thursday afternoon, Friday, and Saturday I got up just in time to watch the end of the basketball game. So I really don't have any comments. I wasn't able to do a whole lot.
Better now?
Yeah, I'm better.
Better.
Yeah, I
Still got
picked
it.
up a little bug, but I
Yeah.
still have back pain and stuff too on top of everything.
I probably could add the chants were kind of fun Saturday.
Didn't participate.
No.
But also the rest of the crowd tended to drown them out if you know.
Yeah, it was pretty loud. Of course, we had a couple of Barry Brown and Michael Beasley who came back, and of course, Michael Beasley got himself into some trouble thereafter. But guess kind of is what it is.
First time.
No. I kind of made some comments during the game about that, and I guess it appeared to be true. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, anyway.
Well, it was Friday evening, as John said, it was a reopening of the museum for Raleigh Historical Society members. Catherine said there were just over 100 people in attendance, and the new displays and the museum space in general look great. The staff said they have a few more things they want to get done, but the work they've done so far is really nice. And I meant to check in because Saturday they were having a public open area for Saturday, and maybe Sunday too. See how that went. But yeah, it's really nice. And before it covered Manhattan, now it covers all of Riley County. They've got displays from every township and small town and everything. It's really nice. Saturday I also attended the K-State and KU basketball game. It was a great game, and some of the loudest crowd I've ever heard in Bramlage. It got really loud at the end.
Yeah.
The crowd was excited, and I was worn out. The students could stand the whole game, but I had to stand most of the game, and I was worn out. And then I heard there was a football game yesterday, but I checked the K-State schedule and they weren't playing. So I don't know what happened about that. All right, we can go on.
Ready for business, commissioners? First item I have, need a motion to approve required contractual provisions attachment to the agreement for services dated May 9th, 2022, and required contractual provisions attachment for agreement services dated October 24th, 2022, amended by supplemental agreement number 1, June 17th, 2024, and supplemental amendment number 2 dated September 30th, 2024, with SMH Consultants for University Park Lagoon project.
Did not direct that motion. I just wanted to clarify.
You want to explain this a bit?
Yeah, so in order to qualify for the grants, it has to have certain contractual provisions, whether it be federal or the state revolving fund. So this basically amends those contracts to fall under that. Brian, you can probably explain it better than I can.
Sure. There's a whenever you have federal funds involved, there's a handful of attachments that they like for the contractors to sign. And one of them, I'm going to go off memory here, Commissioner. Although I can pull it up, I have it up. One of them talks about that you won't use the money that you receive from the project to lobby. And then one of them is that you won't discriminate against people because of their race or gender. And then one of them is, I can't remember, but there's 3 or 4 things that we sign and that we have our contractors sign, and that's what the feds require. They're actually not that onerous, right?
I went through them and you looked at them and went,
Yeah, most of them, it's things that people are already doing, so there really isn't a lot of there isn't really a lot of pushback on them. So
they need that. So
yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I would make a motion to sign and approve the amended contractual provisions.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the updated contractual provisions and attachments for the contracts with SMH Consultants. All in favor?
Aye.
Sure, a lot of places. to sign.
Oh, let's see.
I forgot my stamp.
I agree. Quit sitting by Commissioner Ford.
I
Let's take some. Most of them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one thing I was able to do on Saturday was go through.
Did anybody get the score right?
No,
Someone I'm sure did, none of us.
I was real close on the Chiefs score. That was only half of the Eagles score.
Just overall, I was not impressed with that game at all.
They never sent a blitz.
Well,
More
man,
guys
that's-
did that damage the whole time.
yeah. It was over and over and over. They didn't change anything.
I don't know what happened to our offensive line.
I don't either. It's awful.
Their defensive line should have been the MVP.
Yeah, really should have.
They have the quarterback.
That's impressive to do it at that level with just 4 guys.
Mahomes couldn't get anywhere.
Thinking about the game, I still enjoyed all the food my wife made.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's all I did this weekend was eat.
I wasn't kidding you, there was a lot of them.
Halfway through before no stuff's supposed to.
That there, I think, probably is Mr. Parker's fault, the number of them.
And this one's dead.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner says Riley County Employee Action Form, Alexis Dunaway, separation of county service effective February 5th. All 3, please sign. You, Commissioners, any changes in the minutes?
I don't know.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes as written from the February 6th meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the February 6th meeting as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Tentative agendas with Commissioners. Any items for next week's press conference? Commissioners want to be sure you have on your calendar the 2025 annual township officials meeting or Wednesday, March 12th, 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Potter Hall.
That smells
Never know in
March.
Kansas.
Yeah, March.
Never know in Kansas.
Okay, what date was it?
Wednesday, March 12th,
Okay, which one?
8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Potawatomi. Okay, and the next commissioners I'm up at 9 o'clock. Future football coaching changes going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a big one in a way.
That one is for offensive line. He was a heck of an offensive line coach.
We already promoted Matt Wells to the offensive coordinator's position.
As we saw last night, how important an offensive line is. Maybe that's where he should have went.
Yeah, that's the big talk online, what do we do for offensive line? Everybody assumed Wells would be the coordinator, but what do we do for line now? Well, within, so we've talked about Weezak or something like that, but there's a tight end coach, because he has coached the offensive line before, moving him over and then bringing somebody in for tight ends.
Well, it's critical, I tell you. Quarterback can't do much without those big guys up front.
Philadelphia, that's really big guys. too.
They're all huge, average 6'6", 338,
I know.
biggest in the NFL.
Yeah, they put a stat up there from the first Super Bowl to this one, like they're 6'3", 240 or something like that during the first Super Bowl.
So you look at these guys, they're like,
But the thing is, how fast some of them can move. That's what's impressive.
yeah,
They're that big and they'd run you down.
they certainly did.
That's what's impressive.
Well,
Yeah.
K-State, I don't know. They used to have it, Snyder did, but they'd have in August, they'd have high school then for a conference with them. Stuff, talking to them about different things. And a friend of mine who was helping the coach in Leavenworth came to him and he said, one of them, they had him go out and watch the scrimmage and see how they did it and stuff. And they were supposed to be lying on the sidelines and they all kept inching forward a little bit till they were out on there. So he ran a sweep and pulled all those offensive linemen. He running around there and says, you see a bunch of guys scattered. He says, those big guys can run.
You can.
Yeah, well, that team, Philadelphia seems really young too.
That's not good.
Yeah. Well, they were.
I remember some Snyder teams. He had some big offensive line, 310 averages for college.
1 year was bigger than
Anyone in the NFL, I remember that. They were averaging 310 that 1 year, and it was bigger than any NFL line at the time.
But tell that one of the things we had brought up who we needed to bring in was tight end coach was what's his name, Jim's son, Jim Appraisal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Cody
Cody.
He is a stud of a wide receivers coach.
Yeah, they're saying that's somebody on this one web message where they're saying, I'll bring him in. I said, there's two people who'll be real happy with that around here.
He's a heck of a wide receivers coach. He's building quite a name for himself. The only reason he moved from Tennessee was he did some experience because Heupel wants him to stay and wants him back. He's good. That their system is all about connections in the coaching world.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, like I said, there's assistant coaches and said they move around chasing the right spot. Did I tell you that much? Is the friend of the Daily he's I think he's the backs coach now. The Chiefs is married to Chance Cousins. And I don't know, saying, I don't know how he's doing. He keeps having to move. He's coached here for a couple of years and he's here and they go, what's going on? That's that business. That's how he work. And he got they've been in St. Louis for a while and then Minnesota because he started out in college, then he got into the pros in St. Louis and then Minnesota, and then he got to New England with Spagnuolo. Spagnuolo came here, everybody belonged. Of course, her family, because they're all from Kansas City, her family is thrilled with him being there now.
Yeah.
I wrote something saying, hey, he's just having to leave all the time. It's the life.
That's that business.
So you get caught up with someone, get to stay for a while. He's also the heading. There's the defensive line, and like he was linebackers one time, they just would say, so they're moving him around to
Get experience.
get experience. So maybe some, actually he can be a defensive coordinator. That's what they kind of training us to be.
Mhm.
So he's done a little bit of all of it.
Yeah, that's a heck of a business.
Mhm.
About all that snow and all that. The one weather that we had after that, my creek's running as good as it's ran in
Oh, yeah.
many years, cause we had so many dry years. And I do enjoy seeing that. Ready, commissioners? Good morning, Commissioner Rich Varga, Riley County Clerk. First report for you is the 2025 year-to-date wages and overtime compared to budget report. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, the point in time and year that this report is at 8.33%. That's what we use as the little barometer to gauge respectively where the departments are in their personnel side of their budget and all aspects of their budget. You can see those highlighted in the red are those that are above that amount at this point in time at the far right column. One thing I always like to look at is the overtime, the amount of overtime departments have used at this point in time. Of course, EMS ambulance commissioners, as you know, the overwhelming majority of that is budgeted overtime just due to the nature of their schedule. Public Works right now isn't showing too bad. Noxious weed, solid waste.
How did Public Works not be over after all their snow work? That's the one that surprised me.
It'll catch up, I'm sure.
Their overtime, I expected their overtime to be.
Yep, it'll catch up, I'm sure, especially with what's in the forecast this week. And that their commissioners is a prime example from one year to the next on how their budgets and noxious weed and solid waste can be so severely impacted by storms,
Yeah.
and that early in the year, you really don't like seeing that early in the year when you got to survive the rest of the year with the remainder of your budget. And so that's something we always work with them and work on. But remember, those departments that do snow removal and that, we do budget 8% overtime and higher amount than like the clerk's office that doesn't typically get as much and stuff. So we didn't used to we used to have everyone on 3%, and it just doesn't make sense in those years because it's not only snows, but many years we were dealing with floods and they have a lot of road
There's a lot of
work to clean up and stuff. And so that's why we adjusted that years ago. So hopefully that's enough. But early in the year, you don't like to see it. It's salt storage, salt usage, and all of that impacted, and that does impact their budget early on for sure. Any questions on this first page, commissioners? Overall, we're just at 0.47% overtime at this point. Next report. Just a little more detailed breakdown of the departmentals, salary and payroll budgets, regular salary, seasonal, and overtime. A little bit more detail. Any questions on those? Next reports, 2025 year-to-date budget activity report. Once again, using that 8.3%. You can see that everyone's doing so far so good early in the year. Always like to point out the general line down there, about 8 or 9 lines up from the bottom, or just at 0.32%. That's because of that large budget stabilization amount that we have in our commissioners, and that is something we do not want to use, because if we use that, then we really have had a situation. Any questions on that first page, commissioners? Next page, same, early in the year, everyone's looking good at this point in time. I'd like to point out that bolded box, which is different than previous years. It started during last year to where we have to break out in more detail the various community corrections programs. So not quite as easy to see as when it was just a couple, but several of them now to manage and look at. Any questions on those, commissioners? Those due to that complexity, you see commissioners in the health department, you see, as well as why Brittany and Elizabeth work with them a lot, because there are so many different programs and hours split between various programs and grant funds. It gets rather complex. Any questions on that, commissioners? CIP is good at just 1.42%. Next page is all enterprise funds. Those are benefit districts that derive no ad valorem taxes. It is only fees and special assessments for those individuals that live there or own property in those districts. And early in the year, they're doing well also. This report 2024 to 2025 comparison for the respective departments, just kind of a snapshot. See how departments are doing spending wise as compared to the previous year. Not always an apples to apples comparison. Public Works would be a prime example. Commissioners, one year they can have early storms, next year they may not have any storms at all. And so just a snapshot, not always a great apples to apples comparison. Some commissioners asked 4 years ago. Next report, a little more detailed breakdown of county general, the personnel line item. Commissioners, like to remind you that's for separation of service pay. No regular wages on a regular cycle are paid out of that, but just for separation of service. The miscellaneous budget stabilization at 4.25 million in case needed for an emergency or disasters is all still there. Any questions on that report? General? Next report, 2025 RCPD expenses paid by Riley County. This report shows the various by month. I like this next report, a little better snapshot comparatively to previous years to where we're sitting. Looks like that one line item should be moved down to position probably. 38,000, but early in the year can tell you, commissioners, this RCPD budget, of course, because of the number of inmates, inmate medical, inmate housing, it continues, it's gone up the last several years. And so it's something we continue to have to keep an eye on, i.e. You'll have to continue to increase budgets in those regards, just due to the number of those. So we meet with RCPD regularly. Mr. French, he in charge of the jail facility, he's meeting with us regularly. As you know, we increased nursing staff availability. That was not an insignificant cost. But I'd like to remind commissioners and the public on this report, anything building, housing related, and inmate medical dental, Riley County is 100% responsible for. There's no other public entity that helps share in that cost. Any questions on that, commissioners? To go to their offsite inmate medical paid by Advanced Correctional Health Care. Of course, this cost has gone up because we're asking for more services from them because of all the number of inmates, additional nursing services. As you know, we did change the prescription, so hopefully that'll have an impact to the positive for us and reducing some costs, hopefully. Can be hard to gauge though when our numbers of individuals keep going up regularly. Any questions on any of those reports, commissioners? Have time, take more time to go through those in detail. You have any questions, let us know. We'll be sure to find the answers for you. Thank you. Next, Commissioner, you have Lori Harrison at 9:15. We're gonna have to talk. Aren't you in charge of weather? I mean, what's the deal?
I love winter, but this year I've had it, I'm ready for spring.
Well, speaking of, I did see they've already listed all the storm spotter classes
Yes,
for the spring.
on the website.
Yeah, saw that.
I made tornadoes at the mall this Saturday, so I guess I am kind of enjoying something. We participated in the nonprofit fair that
Oh, yeah.
town center sponsored.
Yeah, I saw some
I
pictures.
always get the little tornado tubes, you know, and then you put the two bottles and then you make the vortex. I enjoy it. Kids love it too. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
making tornadoes.
Get this one right again, then I guess I'm gonna have to start believing meteorologists. Normally I take, what they say and cut it in half and. Well, last one, boy, they hit the nail on the head. Hoping they don't here, but I don't know.
Put the blade on the tractor tonight.
Supposed to start tonight, isn't it? First,
Nah, just a little bit, but
Little
just
bit.
getting ready for Wednesday. That way I'm not doing it in the middle of it, Have
Worries
everything ready.
tonight, so.
Yeah, just little stuff tonight and tomorrow maybe.
I don't think they're expecting accumulation tonight.
gotcha. They went from 1 to 3 to nothing tonight then, I guess. We'll see.
Last I saw anyway, we'll give them a couple hours. We'll see
Yeah.
what the next report says.
Gotcha.
The really fun part with the big snow coming is the 20 to 25 mile an hour winds with it
I know.
too. I was not happy to see that.
And that's overnight into the morning on Wednesday.
That's Thursday, actually. Isn't it?
It's Wednesday.
Oh, is it Wednesday morning?
Yeah.
The heavy snow Wednesday morning?
Overnight Tuesday, but it's supposed to go through the morning and start tapering off. So
Dog won't want to go out.
Wednesday morning commute's gonna be
At least I
not
won't.
nice,
Don't know what he's gonna do.
maybe not even possible, I don't know.
Never know. Commissioner Cameron and I were talking, sometimes I hit it, we might not get nothing.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen before too. Some of the worst storm predictions and nothing.
Well, when you look at it, it's just kind of a small little slip. So it could shift north, it could shift south, and
I was really disheartened because over the weekend, I read the last 2 updates that Chief Stuckey sent around, right? The first one was like, oh, we're out of the main part of it. And now it seems like we are
dead right bullseye.
Epicenter.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, it's like,
what happened?
I agree.
That's what happened in January too.
Not excited about it.
Early February. Still got the rest of this month in March.
yeah, March, we usually get a big one.
Usually right at the beginning of March,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's lots of snow. It melts right away. I've got a little
Well,
snow patch like this big on my driveway.
Oh, yeah, I've still got a few.
It's just a reminder.
Now you can see Mount Snow over there at the football stadium. It'll probably take till August to get rid of all that.
Probably.
You ready?
2 seconds, we're ready.
Okay. We can wait 2 seconds.
All right, good morning. Lori Harrison with Riley County Emergency Management. A year ago, we applied for the HMEP, it's a Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant for a commodity flow study of hazardous materials for the Hazard Mitigation Region I, which is 7 counties in the state of Kansas. At that time, commission approved the application that we go ahead and send the application in. In November of 24, then we received notice that the grant application was approved for this commodity flow study. And since notice of the application approval, we've gone back and forth with the consultant and legal and finance and just making sure that, you know, the contract had everything that it needed and everything's good to go. So that's what we're here then for, is to sign the contract and move forward with this project. So the contract you have in front of you is with the consulting firm Decision Innovation Consulting. It's for $147,600. And then the way the funding works is there's benchmarks, and at each benchmark then we would ask the state for funding to pay the contractor. Every county in the region is part of the in-kind match. So between our salaries and our equipment and whatever else we decide to do is our in-kind match. So that match was determined by population of each county. And so they were given then a dollar amount. This is your match to this grant. So that being said, all 7 counties have signed off and are in agreement that they would participate in this and will uphold their part of the match of the grant. So I'm basically here to move forward. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have about this project.
Well, I would make a motion that we sign the contracts with Decision Innovation Consulting for the Riley County match for the hazardous materials, which emergency preparedness grant.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the signing contract with Decision Innovation Consultants for hazardous materials commodity flow study for region. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair, please sign.
Have all the fun.
Next, Commissioner, press conference at 9:30.
Cindy always thinks I can
Thanks.
talk all the way that I talk, but it's like,
Well, we can talk about
I
tornadoes.
guess if you have questions about anything, yeah, I mean,
For the next 12 minutes.
This one says emergency management. That
You can go ahead.
do I need to
Yeah.
sign that?
Yeah. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
thank you.
Good luck with the upcoming weather. Is tomorrow's game here?
Yes.
Yes, Arizona.
You know what time it is?
I guess it's probably gonna get moved around, I bet.
Oh,
They
really?
don't get moved. Well, yeah, because of weather.
Yeah, they might move it. I think it's 7 o'clock, but I would be surprised if they move it to earlier afternoon. I think it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Surprised if they move it up to maybe 5 or something.
no TVs. Side. Get home and also so Arizona can get out of here.
Exactly. I got made, beat Arizona tomorrow, they're a ranked team. We gotta be getting in the mix of things again. We already got like 5 quad one wins now.
Isn't hard to believe though, if you did get in the mix of things with our record.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, I know it's totally changed, but they should consider that stuff.
Yeah.
But other schools will look at it and go, "Yeah, they did it." Right.
That's because we play in a good conference and we're,
Because it's the, we only played half of the year.
yeah.
Yeah,
We just got to wait till the second half.
Some cold nights and days coming up with this weather too. Yeah. They're donor ranked.
20th. I kind of started off kind of rough too, and then kind of putting it on here at the end of the year as well.
We didn't start out rough. We started out horrible.
No, I mean, Arizona, I'm in Arizona.
They're out with 2 left feet.
Kudos to Tang and his coaching staff. Kudos to them.
They came out firing. I mean,
There was
they,
a point where you're thinking, man, they just,
Yeah, no, I was one.
and they played a couple of close games and going, well, at least they're starting, then they took off.
Yeah. Kudos to
So that
them.
would be what Iowa State was 2 or 3 and
were
we
ranked
beat
3,
them.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
it was
16, 14-1 and 16.
No Big 12 team right now has beat more high ranked teams in K-State. More ranked teams in K-State right now.
The only team in the country that has Kentucky.
Must be something with the Wildcats,
Yeah.
huh? That's a great mascot.
I think it has something to do with me.
None of that.
I don't know. I need a nap.
Yes, I was listening to stats yesterday on how many people call in sick on the day after the Super Bowl. It just baffles me.
That was a lot. That was, they were talking about that on the radio.
That's
this
nothing I would even
morning.
consider, you know.
Was
I
it 2
just-
years ago? They considered moving it back to Saturday for that reason.
Well, it's not that late, unless we're living on these coasts.
And then it's still before 11.
But still, yeah. Unless you have to get up at 3, that's the story, but not too many people.
It's usually attributed to
It's the
people
celebration.
inviting too
Yeah.
much.
It's either celebrating win or drowning in sorrow.
Yeah.
Loss, one of the two.
They were showing some Philly fans last night, right? They're climbing light poles and
Well, yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see the, that.
probably burning couches somewhere too, for all I know.
People
Come on,
go,
guys.
some people go all out. I had to stop by the dollar store just about an hour before the game to take some
Oh.
chips over to my daughter. And over at RC McGraw's, a guy was walking and he had shades and like a bright red Chiefs robe on, you know. It's like some people go all out.
Yeah.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Anna Burson with the Riley County Appraiser's Office. I'm here this morning to provide information regarding the Riley County 2025 trend publication. The Riley County Appraiser's Office has completed all studies and analysis for the 2025 property valuations. The annual change of value notices will be mailed Wednesday, February 26th to property owners. The CVNs reflect changes in property values due to the fluctuations in the local real estate and or changes made to individual properties such as additions, demolitions, classification changes, or other improvements. The real estate market in Riley County reflects an overall upward trend, with the residential property values increasing by an average of 4 to 10%. Commercial property values show an increase of 2 to 6%. Residential and commercial vacant land also are overall inflationary trend, with residential being 0 to 14% and commercial 2% or less. The average price of all valid home sales in 2024 was $275,000, while in 2023 the average price was $265,000. The median home price in Riley County for 2024 was $250,000, while in 2023 it was $238,000. The median is the middle price when all homes are listed from lowest to smallest, meaning half of the homes sold for more and half sold for less. The median price is more reliable reference point because it's less affected by the outliers. It's also important to note that values on specific properties may not follow the general trends because of changes to the property, correction of descriptive information, or sales in the market area indicate values outside of typical market range. It's important to note that just because the property value increased does not mean the taxes will. Appraisers are tasked with valuing the home at fair market value based on the sales. We do not set tax rates. The tax bills received in December reflect the individual property's share of the established yearly budget. And the budget itself is determined by the Riley County Board of Commissioners, school districts, municipalities, and other taxing authorities. The tax dollars needed to meet the budget are represented by the mill levy. As you may have heard before, the valuation of your property determines your piece of the pie, not the size of the pie itself, which is why it's so important to ensure all properties valued fair and equitably. Property data for all parcels in Riley County can be accessed through the Riley County website. Values will update online by noon on Friday, February 28th. If you are in need of any additional information, please don't hesitate to contact our office. I will plan to do another press conference that week we met. Thank you.
Commissioner, you have Evan McMillan at 9:35.
I'm seeing that's probably gonna change before it gets finalized with legislation that's gonna pass,
Not how we valued it, but
you know.
Is
They're
that
gonna-
one for 3% or something?
You know, it passed the Senate, but the House is gonna do something entirely different. They're gonna do it on a 6-year rolling average. I don't know how they're gonna start with that.
Yeah,
but,
well, yeah, that's,
I guess they're gonna take the last 6 years, make an average of it, which will probably in this case be more than that, I would think. I mean, given,
if they're taking into account old historic years, it'll drop.
that we had 2 very high years in 21 and 22, so that's gonna push it up.
What it's gonna limit the valuations to what the 6-year average is, man, about the time.
Yeah, they're gonna take a 6-year rolling average, and then that's what it's going to be, and then
6-year rolling average on the percentage increase or the value of the property.
they don't know.
Those are two different,
I
hugely
understand,
different
yeah.
numbers.
I think it's on just the evaluation.
Two hugely different numbers.
Yeah, and when they implement that will be the other question. Effective, I mean.
July 1st.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's what they would do, for
That-
sure.
Yeah. That's when the state budget year would start. That's when all the new,
This still wouldn't change how we set the value January 1, it would just change the taxable side of it, so we'd have to figure all of that out.
well, you may be thinking about it then, because something's gonna happen before the end of the session,
Well,
for
it
sure.
wouldn't be just my office, it'd be me and the clerk and.
And just remember, when they do those changes, there'll be programming cost associated
Sure.
with it
Sure.
to save money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it couldn't go up there. No way in heck.
Ready for me?
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Morning, Evan McMillan, Public Works. Today I have an out-of-state travel request. This is for the NACE conference, National Association of County Engineers. It will be held in Schaumburg, Illinois on April 14th to 17th. It's a good conference for networking mainly. It's also good for getting your continuing education for PE licensure. It's worth noting that due to our involvement with KCHA, they will cover about or up to $1,500 for attendance for this conference.
Where is Schaumburg, Illinois?
It's about 10 miles out of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
I had the same question.
Never heard of that. Okay. No, I haven't. Sounds like that's probably a pretty good thing there.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. I'll go ahead then make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel request for the 2025 NATES conference.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the out-of-state travel request for the 2025 NACE conference. All in favor?
I
Sure. Please sign. Imagine it.
I get all the. I do need to.
Need to bring it in. I could've-
I've got an extra one in here. if you really need it.
Yes. Somebody got
Yes.
it. Someday.
No, no.
Favorite topics.
Well, good news on this account. I was told on Thursday that our short bill, what's at the revisor still, because the revisor's backed up, probably has a pretty good chance.
No, but I didn't know she knew something.
Yeah.
named
The SCR?
Yeah. That's what Dick Carter told me.
Wow.
For what?
He thinks that has a pretty good shot.
Short-term rental?
Uh-huh.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Help.
That's fantastic. I just think it's gonna help. I think it's gonna help everybody.
Several other counties have inspired.
If
Shelby County, I think, is one of them, and I
Yeah.
more, there was an oddball county, I don't even remember which one it was, but he mentioned
Really?
he thought if he could get it to the revisor and get it into the right committee, he thought that
So you know that you don't do
it'd be a good likelihood, because it was short, it was just,
Yeah, it's about.
Yeah.
oh, it's
Just a
kinda like
couple.
that Nuisance. thing.
just a couple changes within statute, he thought that would be,
County
palatable.
home rule.
Well, I'm
That
hopeful.
has a
I'm
chance.
hopeful because I think that our whole approach is measured. I think that it puts communities in the driver's seat of their own, decision making.
yeah.
And
When it keeps.
and also
Yeah.
keeps
That's
keeps
what
the-
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back for how it was written. That's not my intent at
No.
all. It does the things that we shouldn't be doing, like trying to tell VRBO how to run their business. It doesn't do that. You know what I mean? It puts responsibility back on the actual property owner.
And he mentioned that too.
Yeah.
Thought that was important and fair that we are trying to protect the interests of the properties adjacent to or next to these type of facilities without having to really bite into the facility itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He thought that was a good likelihood. But it's gotta get past the revisor.
Yeah. That's
I don't
fantastic.
know turnarounds on the 20th, so I don't know on that yet. You might confer with him on that.
Okay,
See how
I'll
that's moving.
reach out to Mr. Carter.
I think we're probably past our window of opportunity probably for the CLT this session.
Yeah.
But we should continue to work on that because I think future plans aren't gonna be needed for that just yet, but so we can probably make a plan for that. Have that ready to go next.
That makes sense.
And they're working so fast to try to get out of there in 90 days and
That makes sense.
both were discussed on Thursday. They're
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's that right. Time.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director. Also have Darren Hobbs here, our Planning Compliance Specialist. And you're already geared up for the excitement of talking about short-term rentals, so. But glad to hear that little bit of the possible information with the state, so that's good news, so. So this conversation kind of stems from the conversations we had at AC in December. If y'all remember with our county breakout groups, of course, SDRs came up. And I believe it was Johnson County that sent you, Commissioner Ford, some information from Independence, Missouri.
Yeah.
And that's what's in your packet along with our current STR regulations found in our LDR, land development regulations. We've had ours in effect since January 1, 2022. We did have to do a bit of an update to them in May 2022, just to make sure we were clear on who needed to get licensed. And those are the ones that have been in effect for these last few years. So we haven't had any changes. We've talked a lot about it, of course, because it's always a hot topic across the country. It's not just us, but it's definitely one of those hot topics and evolving topics. Even still, even though they've been around for a while. And again, we had that conversation at KAC. So just wanted to bring this back to you folks. If there's anything we do want to look at changing based on some of the criteria that Independence, Missouri included in theirs. Now, of course, they're a little bit different. Obviously, they're a city. They're a little bit more densely populated than Riley County. So, you know, some of it can definitely be, you know, valuable to look at, to review, to see if we want to take it up. But there are obviously differences with a more densely populated city versus the county, but definitely worth conversation. So we had talked about this, you know, for the last couple of months, and you folks did say you wanted to talk about it again. So definitely always good to look at, you know, with such an evolving topic all the time, it's always good to keep an eye on our regs and see if there's anything we want to do for them. So let's see. So again, I included both ours and Independence's in there. I thought their, the city of Independence, Missouri, I thought their ordinance summed up their purpose really well, which really is the intent. So balancing the economic opportunity created by STRs with the need to maintain the city's housing supply and protect the rights and safety of owners, guests, and neighbors. You know, we're also talking a lot about housing, STR regulations, maybe a little bit less in Riley County because again, we are a little less densely populated than cities, but STR regulations are, you know, a way to help, you know, with housing supply. So if you have some limitations on how many STRs there can be in certain areas, who can own them, you know, I should say how many one entity can own, that could help with housing availability, because that's one of the big issues across the country. With STRs, or, you know, all those different sorts of things, they take away the housing stock from people who want to live in a place, actually just want to live there, who want to, you know, actually own a home where, you know, where they are. The STRs have made that challenging again across the country. It's not just here, it's all over. So those are the couple of things that I picked out from Independence that might be worth us talking about, exploring, adding something like that into our regulations. We do have some areas of the county, of course, that are a little bit more densely populated. We do have some neighborhoods out in the county. We have heard from residents in some of those neighborhoods, you know, with some concerns about the STRs. So it might be valid or valuable to review some of these potential criteria and see if they could work for us. What Independence does is they limit the number of STRs in an area by allowing no more than 1 per 8 residences on a block face. So basically, when you have your road, you have your houses on both sides. On this side, there would be no more. If you have 8 houses, there'd be no more than 1. And over here, the same thing. If you don't have more than 8, there would still be the limit of 1. So that's kind of how they do it. And then they also, in addition to that, require 500 feet from the property line of another existing STR. So if maybe it's not quite eight houses, but if you're within 500 feet of another one, then you wouldn't be able to have one. And I'm just recounting what Independence does. I'm not saying that's the parameters we should look at here, but I'm just explaining what they have in their ordinance. So again, you can do a wide variety of, you really can do kind of whatever you want in terms of, you know, distance limitations or number limitations or that kind of thing, if that's something you'd want to look at. So.
Do we have any problem, right now with being too close together? Are there any?
I mean, again, not really, because again, in Riley County, we don't have a ton of density. We do have, you know, obviously some of the neighborhoods that do have a few more. Like Terra Heights, there's a couple, they're not right next to each other, but they are, you know, on the same street as we know. But again, we really don't have ones where, you know, full blocks or full neighborhoods or, you know, we have boom, 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 at least that we know of. I will, say it that way.
The registered ones, correct?
So-
Or licensed ones.
Yeah, the ones that were licensed, that we know about, yeah, we don't really have that issue. So this would be a preemptive, you know, sort of thing if we want to. And the other thing, that again, we don't really have the issue with, but you hear about, you know, big companies or big entities buying like 200 homes and they're all short-term rentals in a place. Of course, again, we don't quite have that issue here. But what Independence does is no more than 5 can be owned by one entity. So that's also an option if you want to think about that. We don't have any, and correct me if I'm wrong, that are owned, no more than one person owns more than one, right? Yeah, so we don't really have that problem now either. It would be a preemptive thing. So if you wanted to explore that.
Does Manhattan have? I tried to find theirs, and couldn't find them.
I'm not 100% clear how Manhattan handles them. I know at one point they used to be conditional use permits, but I'm not sure they do it that way anymore. I'm not really 100% sure how Manhattan handles their short-term rentals. So, and I've heard various things like they don't have regulations, but I'm pretty sure that they have something. But I'll just be honest, I'm not really 100% sure because it would work so
I
differently.
couldn't find it in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in there, but.
Yeah.
It's one that, cause. And there's that 500 feet thing, cause I know. About one of those condo buildings just off near the football stadium, they were gonna make. Every one of the units in that building was gonna be that. Short-term.
SDR,
Somebody building the whole thing, making it a.
wonderful.
I seen one owner for the whole building,
Yeah,
just rent them all out.
yeah.
That's the one time I stayed at one down by Branson. It was a series of townhomes. I know that's what, you know. The whole block of them there. I think that's what they were.
Yeah, I know that the regulation they have about the number of houses that can be owned by one entity, I think is a good one. Because you own a lot of them, but then you really control rentals.
Right.
Control the pricing.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do some of this, but have a little lower for us as far as, rather than say 5, maybe it's 3 or that kind of.
Sure. Yeah. Answer to us. Yeah. Yeah. And again, these are just, this is not me saying, here's what we should do based on independence. This is just what they do. I can pull a variety of other codes. I know other entities across the country have limitations like this. They probably have ones, you know, some probably have ones that are more stringent, some have ones that are probably less. So it just kind of depends on what you folks want to do. Right now, of course, any additional criteria we put on is just going to add to enforcement. And I know it sounds promising that we'll have some help from the state, but right now,
Right now it's.
that is
You don't do
just.
this, we're gonna send you another letter.
Yeah.
Basically,
Filling up your
well,
mailbox.
We're gonna clear your mailbox.
Yeah, yeah,
Get
so,
one every
I
day.
know, and most people will, but, and I think with the license, most people do want to do it right. It's
Yes,
only a few
yes.
that abuse things. I think
Yeah.
especially the distance between them, especially because of the number of vehicles and everything. I think the distance between them is a good thing. Owning more than one, especially if you're making them be spread out, I don't see owning more than one as a problem, but definitely spacing them out makes sense. Especially like say on some of those county roads where there isn't. I know they say there's parking in front of them, but well, I guess we require off-street parking.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
But that, they don't do that, so, you know.
right, I mean, we just have a minimum, that doesn't mean they can't also then, as long as they provide the minimum that we require, that doesn't mean they can't, park on the road too.
Yeah, because when they have. Which I know. not supposed to rent them for group activity over the weekend.
Right.
Well, yeah, I think, and I don't know if 500 feet makes sense. Or some distance, I can definitely see the benefits in the distance. It's stacking them together is gonna be make it even worse than it is now, I think.
I can research and pull some various codes from different
Yeah.
entities. And maybe even looking at, more rural counties, and seeing, what kind of distances they might have. Just to give us something to look at, some options, so.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that would definitely.
Is there any other? There was a few other criteria, of course, in Independence's code that is different from ours. Stuff that really gets into enforcement. Like you can only have 4 bedrooms, you can only do X, Y, and Z, and that's. I mean, of course, we can do whatever you folks want, of course.
Well, I
But
think we have
that's
to have an
stuff.
enforcement mechanism first, or it doesn't.
We have to have the enforcement mechanism, and the reality is, we can license somebody for a 3-bedroom, but once they close the door and we go on our way, and unless we're made aware. It's just, some of that stuff is just very hard to enforce, even if we do have a good enforcement.
Things, especially in camp, within a city like in Independence, it's easier to enforce it than when
Right.
we're spread for, I don't know, 50 miles, call it from the
Right.
bottom of the county to the top.
Yeah. 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 We would have to do undercover, sleuthing to see how many bedrooms can I rent this for, and.
He's gonna be out there with a hat and
Yeah,
sunglasses
sunglasses
and a camera taking.
Yeah.
Karen in a black ninja suit's interesting.
Yeah.
I could actually picture that.
I probably need another person to help with that,
With the ninja suit?
maybe. But, yeah. So I mean, I don't want to limit what you folks might want to do, but again, just certain things do get really tricky.
Yeah.
Again, even if we had a good enforcement mechanism, it's hard to know what's going on inside sometimes.
I definitely don't want to be too crazy about restrictions,
Yeah.
but it's obvious there are some needed because for 80% of them, it's not a problem. but
Exactly.
We, like everything, well, it's everything else. It's any rules can make it.
Yep.
For
That's very
10 to
standard.
20% of the people are the ones that make rules for.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
exactly.
I think for me, it's more of the safety of the structure.
Yeah.
So it's a safe environment for whoever's renting and using the facility, and then in most cases, it probably doesn't fit the neighborhood that it's in for true usage per se, in a rural setting. Which I think having the setback in there kind of tucks that away and does, have like a STR park or something,
Yeah.
trying to make sure that they can adapt and be compatible with the neighborhoods that they're in. Everybody can kind of coexist, would be my 2 biggest things. And once again, just the enforcement side of it, I don't know what we can and can't do with that just yet, so.
We can. There's a reason why we need the state statute.
Yeah.
There's definitely a reason why we need the state statute. If we don't get the state statute, there may be some things we could explore. But I think it would be, let's just say I'm gonna remain optimistic that it happens. That I think it does a nice, I'm just hopeful. That's all I can say.
But it does have to go through the legislative process, and that might be
Start
slow.
spinning it.
Yeah, might be a little slow.
So anything else you want to talk about? For me to research, for me to bring back, any other ideas you might have, or anything you noticed in either of the codes we could look at?
I would be curious to see what counties Not just maybe, well, not Kansas, obviously, but in other states, there are doing for enforcement and what those mechanisms are, because that helps drive the conversation some. Moving forward, even if we get something in place, or even if we don't get something in place, we kind of at least have some kind of foundation in which to work off of.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And we're happy to look into that, Commissioner. I think the other thing that, my only thought from a legal perspective on all of this is that it's more from a drafting perspective. In that I believe, and I don't want to put words in any of our mouths, but we've had a few meetings on this, and Jacob's more up to speed on it than I am, but I'm pretty familiar with our code. And I think that what's been guiding staff is that this isn't intended to, address the folks that, oh, I have a lovely cabin, right? And we're making it available for responsible use. And so we're not trying to go out and be draconian. We're just focused on making sure that there isn't abuse towards neighbors. And so, and we're doing that in a county context. And so we're happy to go and look at what we looked at doing as well. And maybe also some suburban communities. Independence is a pretty use intensive community, right? It's kind of, it's an old suburb. So we can look at what some others are doing as well.
This is definitely a universal topic, literally, I mean, literally across the world.
So,
Yeah, so. Yeah, so yeah, I can pull some different codes, different options from different counties, and we can bring them into the agenda. That's okay. And if you think of anything else in the meantime, hey, I want to look at this or find, codes that do X, Y, and Z, just let me know. Do that and I'll schedule a future time to talk more.
Thanks for
Okay.
looking into, bring it up too. But
Yeah, absolutely.
like I say, still to me, it's relatively new phenomenon
Yeah.
that everybody's learning. We're all learning.
We're all learning it together. We're all kind of learning as we go.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and it's changing all the time. So it's definitely one of those topics we'll talk about a lot, probably without an end date. So
well, I want to give the staff in Johnson County kudos too for sending that information and spending their time working with us on it.
yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Commissioner, you have John Ellerman at 10:10.
Getting prepared?
Yes.
Good.
Trucks are all loaded, but that's all in a lot, anyway.
Okay.
Top barn full.
Wish you the best of luck. Nothing else. We've got some practice.
Debbie was there Friday night. The museum filmed a little thing and they had it on the news. Yeah, Friday.
You guys have see
I was actually just about to check.
Next. That was.
I was actually just about
We're being filmed. And that was one of, he had different stuff. One of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she get the lighting like that?
Yeah. I got the lights. I'm not sure he had all of it. And they said there's still And the lighting in the back, that's they're planning
The exhibits.
the
Yeah.
exhibits that get the lighting up on those. And been recently. Fine, because paint some parts have been like, you can still smell like
Brand new.
fresh paint.
No, yeah. Well, they did, you know, that was pretty,
Oh, yeah, very extensive.
that they got it all done. You know, even if there's enough.
Oh, yeah, I already asked.
Oh, that's.
They sort of focus on the crowd of who all these celebrities was Paul McCartney.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that Kevin Costner was hanging out with Pete Davidson.
Yeah. That's. Not pairing. I just came out because we had, right, did something during halftime. Apparently we said, whatever, it's halftime. It's awful.
It was not good.
Or somebody else said, you were, said I wasn't a target audience.
No, and that's definitely true, but even members of the target audience was kind
Wasn't that
of,
great?
yeah.
They very seldom have, it's too much. It's not what you're there for. But the band, you know, get some high school or college bands out there, that's what you're used to. For that.
Something.
These big productions.
Get the what Trans Siberia Orchestra or something.
Oh, yeah.
All the
Yeah.
all the visuals and the lights and stuff. I mean. I wasn't impressed with the commercials. I'm really impressed with
Commercials.
the pregame was just, it was.
I didn't even turn on the pregame, but I thought it's long enough. I'm not gonna listen to pregame.
I turned it on about 3:30, so a couple hours before the game, and commentary was just kind of blah. It was just blah. It wasn't just the game itself, it was just so, yeah, I don't know.
So I'll reach out. Right, so I think you're right. Then on my right.
Catchers and pitchers report here in a couple of days, so. Baseball right around the corner. Yeah.
He just, it's, they should.
State baseball starts next weekend.
It's been. Their project, their project.
Well, let's see the to worry about. Oh, did you need me or John? You. Oh, oh, you're right.
Just now, just now being sad. See, it's stuff about power, but that the honey people are buying AIV's building.
I heard something about that,
They're
yeah.
gonna make the American Honey Institute or something like that.
Huh. Well, they did kind of
More
separate from the
State
State Farm.
Yeah.
Cause that's where it originated
Valor,
from. Yeah,
Valor Honey
Yeah.
started, they've been moving in.
good for them. Good to see that building's gonna get used for something.
Yeah.
It's a huge facility. My gosh, you can get lost down there.
American Honey Institute.
Huh?
They're good, bigger, huh?
Well, we talked about it. Serious.
I've been thinking about that for 4 years.
Yeah. We looked at it. What was that, November of 21 or 22? And it's huge. It would have kind of made sense. I mean, it's right across the street from Stormont there. It's kind of central. I mean, mhm. Close to Metal Art, close to. Wouldn't be close to Lafine anymore, but
Does that give us much traffic?
I don't think so. Not really. Well, Pawnee was looking at it at the same time as a combined facility. Kind of like what they do in Douglas County. It would needed a massive HVAC update to make the transition. I mean, it's a baking kitchen type facility. I mean, it would have been a lot to have to do there, but building itself is in good shape though. So there'd be plenty of space. Wow, that all happened quick too. I mean, AIB, when it was in there, it was really getting after it, and then COVID happened and boom, it just disappeared.
That what happened?
Yeah, most of everything they started doing, they figured out they could just basically do from home. Employee wise, so they didn't need the facility anymore. So
They don't have production facilities.
they do,
For
but
the honey, no, I mean, honey.
yeah,
People are gonna have. Move their
They could do
production
that.
facilities in there.
yeah, they could do that. What they do now is this time of the year, they take all their bees and they ship them, I think, to California or someplace,
That's-
and then bring them back in the
Warm
summer.
them up.
Yeah.
But,
Some years they have pretty good success with that. A couple of years they haven't.
Kendrick Lamar, I guess he did,
Yeah,
he said dominated the Grammys this year.
he did. He's a good performer, but I don't have anything against him. I just, it wasn't,
Oh, that halftime?
yeah, I mean, as a performer, he's fine.
It was a neat presentation, all the colors, the way people did, but it's just, I don't like that kind of music. Yeah, it's music.
I said, we want the target audience.
No.
No. Offense.
He's been around for quite some time. I mean,
Yeah, he has. For what he does, he's
yeah, he's
good at.
good.
I'm just not into that.
I don't have a problem with him. I just didn't find that performance that great yesterday. That's all. He's done better, in my opinion. He's done better.
Well, I said, well, I'm aging out of this.
Well, they're trying, because NFL audiences generally are,
Yeah.
they're trying to.
Trying to pull that
Get them
trend
in,
more
yes.
youthful. Yeah. There was a part where Samuel L. Jackson popped in here. It was
Yeah, with the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was funny. He was more age related.
He wouldn't have he dropped a couple of his famous words.
That's true.
He didn't, but.
Go ahead, John.
Good morning, Commission. John Ellerman, Public Works, with my monthly update. First one on the list is Kitten Creek Road Culvert. Has begun, has 45 working days on it. Actually, the floor had been placed. and the snow melt and flooded the floor. So they had some time cleaning up, pumping the water out. Breakdowns on pumps, so they've been having some issues, but as of Friday, they were pretty much ready to, finishing up the forming of the floor, of the walls and the top. I don't know if they're gonna try to get in and for those today, this afternoon or tomorrow. And be pushing it pretty hard, I think, if they're gonna get there. But then they may have to wait till next week or late in the week before they can do that, hopefully before the snow melts again and floods them out again. But that's moving right along. The 45 days from the start is gonna be a little past that because of the weather days they'll get for not being able to work on stuff. But that is going to be finished before we know, I hope, as long as weather starts being nice. Marlatt Road improvements project, we did get, the city did sign their portions of the agreement on last Tuesday. So as soon as we get that agreement back, I'll bring that and the Benish design contract to you for signatures. Excited to get that started. I know Benish is excited to get that started. I've been hanging them, teasing them with the bait here for over a year now, so hopefully we'll get that signed here in the next couple of weeks.
We wouldn't actually start on anything probably until after we get the two roundabouts.
No, we've talked about how we want this started. I'm not in a hurry to get the design finished. We're talking about bidding maybe 27.
Okay.
Get the roundabouts finished and we can
Get the traffic back off.
come in too and then be able to shut down or
Right.
restrict Marlatt for construction. And I don't know how that's going to play out yet, but.
Sure.
Parks, the last few weeks, month spent since their cruise to a arboriculture training. I can't even say the word, but tree study.
Arboricultural.
Yeah. And if you even, I think I spelled it right because I had to look it up. So, yeah, they did some training with tree stuff, and so how they know when to cut and when not to, and take care of some of our trees that we have. Cleaning up shop and equipment, getting ready. They are getting ready for snow. They said they're pretty good set up, and so they'll start looking at it tonight. Early morning to make sure our sidewalks and some of the lots are clear and treated before employees come in tomorrow. Some of the guys, not all guys anymore. Some of the crew are doing some training for certification for herbicides and pesticides and spraying training. They did strip and wax the floors out of Keats. And that should be finished now. And they did some touch-up paint and painting of some walls at Auto. Operations crew trimming trees along McDowell Creek. Repairing mailboxes last few weeks from the last storm to get ready. Maybe we have some on hand for this next one. I don't think we got too many, but they kind of kept that quiet for me. They didn't tell me. They're doing small structure inspections, clean up of trees and brush at the end of culverts and some of our bridges. And that continues. We do small structure inspections. We do about a third of them every year. As we had some snow melt and some good weather for the roads, they were grading and hauling rock where needed to on some. They did do some patching of asphalt, and as it gets colder, they won't be able to do much. And we weren't able to get hot mix, so whatever we did was with that cold patch stuff that just temporary until we can get some good patching. We bought the material for the fence out at Mola. It was too sloppy last week to get in there and do that then, so we'll get to it as the weather allows us to get in there.
Oh, you can build fences in snow. Come on.
They can. I'm not sure they were excited to, but they could. I said we've all our salt that we used in last storm had been replaced.
Good.
Our barn's full and they're starting to load trucks today. I think Alvin said it takes at least 2 trucks load trucks to fill up all of our trucks. So it's about what, 40 tons or so.
Awesome.
We have some bid openings coming up. March 3rd, we'll have here with culverts, the metal culverts. Tandem axle truck will bid the 13th, and the hydraulic trailer will bid on the 20th. And he's been working on the precast concrete boxes here too, so.
What about the engineering? Is that some RFPs for the engineering for the tax box?
Yes, so we got their
I didn't know
RFQs.
what the dates were.
We received the RFQs, as we review them, he said in the RFQ that 2 county staff or 3 and a public or person will review them, so we needed to find a public. And I think we're going to try to either find somebody off the Road and Bridge Advisory Board that's not consultant. Or he was going to reach out to Brian McNulty to kind of help us review those. And then once we make our recommendation, we'll bring them to you to recommend. I think there's 6, 7 boxes or bridges and culverts to recommend. Maybe a little more. I had the list on my desk. And we'll bring those to you.
I just knew, I didn't remember whether it was done yet or I could remember what the dates were. But
No, we got them Thursday, I believe. We received all of the RFQs. And now it's time to start reviewing them.
Okay.
Open positions, purchasing agents still, we may be getting ready to approach you about filling that position, hopefully soon. Building maintenance tech. If you notice, that's a name change to facility tech. And I will be bringing that back to you as soon as I can to, we pulled the ad in 1st of December, middle of December. I rewrote the Tech 1 position and wrote a Tech 2 position. So I'll be coming back to you to request to advertise for a 1 or a 2. Kind of like we do some of the other positions, and hopefully we'll get some better candidates, or if we have a good one, maybe we can better fit our needs for that. I think a couple times we had not enough money in it for a good candidate with experience. And then of course we had the few that didn't pass background checks. Facility and grounds tech for the Parks Department. We made an offer and it was accepted. So as long as the pre-hire stuff goes through, all right, we shouldn't have a new employee there in the next couple of weeks. The traffic control supervisor, crew chief, that is going through some overhaul too. Have an idea on maybe some changes in how that works. The crew chief idea comes from, we have 2 employees in the traffic patrol division as techs. I am thinking to do away with the supervisor position. And if we can do that, we were talking about having one of them as a crew chief that not necessarily have supervisor responsibilities, but a leadership role where they can kind of organize and guide the work that's given to from the operations manager. And then the idea with the supervisor position, I'd like to change that to assistant operations manager for a number of reasons, to kind of help guide the other divisions. You know, there's 5 under public works, and maybe start overseeing the 2 at the transfer station, help Alvin do those things, but also kind of have someone trained up and get the idea to maybe replace Alvin as he is thinking of retirement in the next 4 or 5 years. Well, that's what he's been told, but you know, sometimes these guys don't listen very much. So especially when it comes to retirement, that's a hard one to do, but I mean, so that's some of the idea. It doesn't add employees, but it changes positions around, in the department, and as of right now, thinking through that, I think it works really well. I'm not totally sold that the traffic, and it doesn't have to stay this way. I see if all that comes through the way it's the way it's planned to work, maybe we can put the supervisor back in there if we need to, after we have a operations manager, or just leave it the same, leave it this way, an operation assistant manager to run the rest of that division. So those will be coming to you here in the next month or so too, as I find time to reevaluate or rewrite and write new job descriptions for those. And that's what that would, yes, that line was all about. University Park, design's getting close to being finished. Having some conversations with EPA on our schedule. Hopefully maybe getting started by the end of the year, into first of next year on design and construction. Actually, hopefully construction, I think, but we'll see how that goes. Crossing our fingers, nothing changes much with these grants, since one of them, since they are federal grant type stuff, even though they come through the state. So we'll be keeping it, we are keeping an eye on them and moving along as if they were still in place. Headquarters station, David's been keeping better updates on that than I put in here, just that it's a placeholder on my deal. The emergency management remodel of the station. We should be getting 30% plans here this week or next week to review. And so that's moving along to see where we're at on the design of that station. Elevator projects. RFPs are due the 19th in Rich's office, and I hope to be able to review those and bring them back to you on the 27th. Shouldn't be too hard. I'm only expecting one to return, or return one with 3 different projects for the elevator, each of the buildings, but so we'll see what we get. I'm a little bit afraid of it being more than what we estimated about almost a year ago, I think, right? So, and then we'll see how this works out before how I recommend we do and get twisted up on Brian's arm on how we can recommend doing the one for this building next, and maybe the FCRC buildings after that. Window project first, Courthouse Plaza East. They will bid on the 20th. So next Thursday. We have a pre-bid meeting tomorrow to discuss and maybe bring them around with the potential contractors to see what if they have questions and what kind of direction we're going to tell them on how they can approach the project. As of right now, I've met with all but one department head. I think that one's probably the easiest one yet. So they were all understanding and said they were going to be flexible, but I think we might restrict work to one office at a time and not maybe one side of the building at a time or however, just to limit the disruption in those offices to as little as possible, right? They're all going to have some couple of weeks of disruption, but I don't want to come down this side of the building and then a month later come down this side and cause a mess in the same office twice.
Well, are you gonna go from top
That,
floor
well,
down?
that's discussion for tomorrow. That's the way I see it happening, but that doesn't mean that we can't say, we want you to do this room first. I've made arrangements. We've talked with Corey some about where and how we relocate people that need to be. We've kind of discussed how we relocate you folks. for a couple, 3 weeks if we have to. And I see that probably having to then restricted them no Monday and Thursday mornings work down here. So we may kick you out of your office and kick you out of your meeting room for a few weeks. If you have objections or concerns, please talk.
No,
to
we're
me
just
about
gonna
it.
borrow yours.
That's fine. We have a nice basement.
Probably
We can,
anywhere, you know.
We
We're
can
not
use their
just-
conference room for.
we talked about my conference room. We talked about FCRC, the big room.
Mhm.
That EMS uses for training in that room down there.
That's true.
We somewhat discussed the second floor up here, but
We've used that before, actually.
I mean, that might be easiest, the closest, but I think we have options available that are pretty easy to set up for you. For everything we need and you have to set up for, so.
It's nice to have this big area, but how many seats are usually full?
Yeah.
Three or
But no, in
four.
our look, that'll be during the time when we'll need them.
Well, 2 of those 3 spaces will have plenty of room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get that.
Yes, they want to come.
Like people, and if there's a big public hearing or something, we could
Maybe
have it tomorrow.
be nice to me and I won't plan anything on that. So. No, so, yeah, that's coming, but if we need to discuss some of that, we can.
Now, you're planning to replace that door with window?
I think
or
that's
what-
storefront window there and that's a door over
The
there.
door for exit. Yeah, okay.
And then remember, we do have the option of different glazing on the windows for this room. Actually, all the rooms.
We haven't got a number on that.
No, that'll be part of the bid process. Let's see. I don't know how much you have heard about our request from the residents off of Main Road in West Canyon. But I did bring a copy of you for you all to look at.
So that's White Canyon?
Yeah. So the request came for us to help them out and improve our, put the road back together after it washed out over the last rainstorms and snow. And so that is not a project we would do on our own without your approval. Right, Alvin said it was pretty bad shape. There's some washouts of the truck that are pretty wide and pretty deep that he had to gently cross on his pickup. They say they needed a 4-wheel drive to get out. At least, the propane truck couldn't get up the road and won't come up the road. And so if he won't come up, they don't think the emergency services will come either. And maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know.
Does this incorporate the what McNulty had suggested?
Didn't incorporate something, this is just an ask to fix that, so they can drive on.
Yeah, this is rebuilding, it's just. Yeah, making it usable, because it's not, you know.
Alvin's kind of threw together a rough estimate on what it would take and some as little as just grading and throwing rock where it needs to fill spots. And another one to go through and improve it and gravel all of it, so that's $2,500 to $6,500.
Is there the township, so contact us, they aren't responsible for that.
This has never been an approved, accepted open road, so nobody ever accepted it as a road. It's so,
Oh, okay.
ever since it's been developed, it's been private, or it should have been private. I don't
Part
think,
of it's on core property,
just, section.
part of it's on core, but yeah, it's not a county road, it's not a township. Well, of course, all township roads are county roads, but
Yeah, it was, so typically when a plat goes through and a developer develops it, the county and township will go out and inspect the road. And if it's built to a standard and what our standards and what we ask for, then they'll accept it and take over maintenance, right? This has never been done that way. It was never accepted by a county or a township to maintain. Yeah, I know this has been discussion for the 4 years I've been here, plus a few years before that.
How many homes are on that road?
Four or five,
Or
something.
maybe 5.
It would cost
the
up to
last one.
6,500 to do it right. Is that
I'd
6,500?
say do it right, and just
for
make
this
it passable, put some gravel on, just
And that's for all 4 homes.
that'll get from, what road is it? Main road that comes in before it comes.
Comes down the hill.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
But no, this Dana's, she lives at the end, but
Mhm, she's the very farthest one.
up on the top of the hill at the end. There's a house next to him that, I don't know if it's on, but it was the. Had the Wonder Museum.
Oh.
And,
That's good.
yeah, I don't watch it, and there's another one that's. Had some health issues, needed the ambulance.
I do remember that.
Thanksgiving, but there's. You know, they come, the last time they come through, they had talked about, you know, one time they talked about a north route, and it was $1 million to put that, but then they had an alternate route, they've been talking to. Somebody about, rather than have it pretty north of that.
They never wrote to contact the property owner one time.
So we got a hold of the property owner, but they wouldn't allow us to do it. They wouldn't allow us to do it.
And then they started talking to Schwab Eaton or somebody that thought they could get them grants to improve it. Those kind of inquiries came and went, and I've not heard much from them.
This has been an issue for decades. The whole issue is, I mean, how many other private roads do we have in the county, and if someone,
But yeah, I mean, we'll be happy to do what you ask us or tell us to do. There's some concern in my mind that we do this for them, we charge them or not charge them. Then we have, you know, but we also have benefit districts that are formed for the same reason, and they pay for their way.
they pay for all the services they get.
That was talked about forming a benefit district at one time.
But it's
You know,
not,
there's a bunch of properties that don't have houses on them. That would benefit, but they're not. Sure if we build.
and then could you even do that, and with the Corps allow it, because the Corps got a road there, and they're usually not very amenable to that stuff.
I think.
Because this was the one when
The flood,
the flood, they couldn't drive in that road for 6
That's the
months.
first I heard of this road was in my interview. Like, no.
I heard all about it during 19. The end of 19 in particular.
yeah, because that section of the Corps floods,
Yeah.
where it's impassable except by boat.
Yeah.
Well, and to sell those properties would be tough too.
Or I'm concerned they shouldn't.
Shouldn't be it. But if you wanted to sell out of the higher, we couldn't really do it with this problem.
But there may be some, you'd have to ask Bob and Amanda, just like. You know, none of the lots really have access to a public road, so. Really shouldn't allow
Wouldn't even allow building
the
permit.
building permit
Exactly.
anymore.
But you know. I took it that road, more put on that one. Right, remember what that road is.
Yes, very, very well, Commissioner. And I would say that technically, right, they do, it's the interpretation and opinion of the Riley County Counselor's Office that they do have access to a public road. It's just not great access. And if you go back, because there is a state statute that if they were completely isolated from a public road, then we would have to pay to put one in, right? And that would have never been approved, right? What the problem is for the folks in White Canyon, and this is why we have updated our subdivision regulations quite a bit since White Canyon was approved, is that this is not a unique problem to them, right? When it's all over the country. Back before we had the kind of subdivision regulations that we do have, we relied on private parties. If they wanted to plat something, we would say, okay, but if you don't do it to what the county says you need to do it to, we can't promise that we're going to accept it and make it a county road. So they did this kind of highfalutin thing. And then they said, well, they probably pinky promised that we're gonna make a road out of this. And then this is what happens when people don't live up to their obligations. And I regret that people are still suffering because of that. But at some point, there's also a fiscal reality. So they do have access to a public road. They just don't have good access to a public road. And that's unfortunate.
Right. We had a similar position at housing area, which nicer houses across from Top of the World that Bo Newsom put in that housing development, those big houses there. That was a private road for years and years, and they kept coming to the county and township, and they said, if the township accepts, you got to bring it up to county standards, and that's always a big hurdle. There was culvert access issue kind of behind that Tuttle Terrace. There's some big houses back in there with a long road.
Yeah.
They wanted county to improve, but we wouldn't because it's a private road. Once again, they have access through their private road to a public road.
Mhm.
And so and I'm sure there's many others across the county.
So what did they do then?
They have to resolve it themselves,
They
either that
came
or
to
do like
Yeah.
the one from Top of the World did, and they eventually went to township and they had special assessments to pave and widen their road.
Yeah. That one's halfway, that one's passable.
This is the biggest conundrum though that we got being on core property, and no matter what you do, you could asphalt that road and it's still gonna flood at some time.
Mhm. I've always wondered if there may at some point be some federal funding that comes around to buy out these folks. But that's not up to us. We play the hand that we're dealt.
Not for a while.
I don't know that there would be though, because the houses aren't even in jeopardy of getting flooded. Usually
That's
it
the
is if the
problem.
house can be flooded and destroyed, but the houses aren't in jeopardy of being flooded and destroyed. It's just access.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Like we bought all of that FEMA land out down where the Fairmount Park is, all the houses and stuff. I was here through all that. Well, that's because the house got flooded and they didn't want to have to pay insurance on them again, so that's how we got all that land.
Well, we've got some out, have them by the transfer station.
Mhm.
We've got some out there that flooded.
Yeah, the whole trailer park as well. That we purchased out there. I can picture the guy, I can't remember his name.
But these are high enough up. They
No, they're way up on the hill. But to get to them, you gotta go down, which again, we got regulations now how they approve a road through the county, through the core property to begin with, but also approved a road that's gonna be flooded every time that the lake goes up.
But even though, during those circumstances, Hunter's Island has the same problem. Linda Smith worked in the treasurer's office and worked in the appraiser's office, and they had a house out there. Many of those public roads get flooded like during the 93 flood. They're completely under, even though they're public roads. So they have someone to improve it and clear it once it's done. But Linda Smith said they built that house out there and they just kicked and screamed when the county made them raise the area of their house 3 foot. And she said, ever since then, I've been so thankful the county made us do that because our house is always safe. You'd have to get a boat to get to it, but she was so thankful. But at the time, they weren't when they wanted to build that. How unnecessary,
So what are they doing without propane now? Can't have heat or any of this. What are they, has this lady said what they're doing? Are they bringing it in bottles or what?
I have no idea.
They have to be pretty resourceful out there.
I
in
guess so.
19. If I remember right, that was a problem then too, was it flooded and they couldn't get propane out there.
Well-
But that was during the spring and summer.
Well, and then after the flooding, they couldn't get through because there were
Right.
logs and debris all
Oh, yeah,
over the
but
road and big
These were
ones,
piled up over the-
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time and effort and money out there that I don't know if anything's ever been built back there, but we've opened it up, we fixed the road, we replaced the culvert. That's all they washed away after floods. We've been out there a few times.
The bridges wouldn't work. Or called it.
Well, that's even talked about, Stephen Riley had one of those movable bridges, they put over there, I forget what they're called.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's temporary.
Pull out there with the trailer.
If you get down around the corner to put it up.
Yeah.
They probably got the equipment to throw a path to do it.
We can clear paths.
What are we doing to answer this thing?
In a while, it's been a week or two.
It was that last week.
Yeah, I remember seeing this.
Too bad.
Sunday, Saturday, Sunday.
I can confirm that Ms. Naduk has called my office today as well. That's all I know. I haven't received her voicemail.
Who's that?
Dana?
Dana, the one that lived at the end.
We need to answer something.
I volunteer Bernie to answer.
Where's Jacob today?
Mourning a loss.
That's true. He is one of the dedicated.
Well into Brian's time here too, just.
Yeah, we,
Yeah.
You know, it's not an easy solution, but I think if any one of us were in that situation, we would hope someone would help us out in it. They didn't ask to be in this situation. Obviously, it wasn't disclosed when they purchased that property, and this is the cheapest of the remedies for all taxpayers involved at this point, as opposed to putting something more permanent in. And so, commissioners, I'm not big about getting into business we shouldn't be in, but we got to be very careful about when we do. And we have helped this area a couple other times. I know no one personally on this road. Let me clarify that. But if we were in that situation, the rest of us, we would want propane.
Yes, Mike, it's certainly the life safety.
It's life safety, and so 6,500 is 6,500, but and you know, if you're gonna fix it, you better fix it as good as you can for temporary being. It would be my suggestion. That way we're not back there in another 3 months.
Well-
February 2nd is what you said.
maybe we should, fix it and, as best we get the 6,500 and say this is, we need to make other arrangements for future, that this is maybe put a limit on how many times we're gonna do this.
They tried to find other ways. And you said they talked to Paul Eaton about trying to find funds.
I think they had a consultant. I'm assuming it's Schwab, but they have a consultant. That was helping them put project and grant money together to put a project together.
They have, and my report will be 20 seconds, right?
Okay.
So I can add this. They have asked the county commission for a letter of support for their application. And that's something that we could consider. We would need to be very careful on how we worded it, because we want to make sure we don't create a impression that somehow the county commission is going to fund shortfall. Yeah, but that's something that we could also work down the road as well.
I think those are all good points. I think someone else brought up a good point here too, as well as, you fix this, because they do have other options. They can hire fire construction, they can hire MCM, and they can do this. It'll cost them more than the 6,500 for us, more than likely, but I mean, that is really what everyone that has a private road. I have a long private driveway, and mine can get washed out. Others of us take care of some of those costs, and so it might be we do it, but in the future, you're gonna need to look at doing this, and here are your options. They do have other options. I'm not unsympathetic, commissioners, but we've helped them several times. I think the grant thing would be great if we could get some grant money and find an alternate route. And unfortunately, this may be one of those areas where eminent domain would not be a bad.
I was waiting for that to come out.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to force it at some point in time, because this problem isn't going away until those houses are gone. And we are collecting taxes off of them.
I think it's good if we get it, but also crafted a letter to each one of the owners that they're saying, this is it. You guys have to come up with something.
Yeah.
I think that, although I don't know anybody there, because when I was running, they called me up for a meeting. I was in junior high with one of the, I didn't know him because it was bigger junior high, but one of the residents up there, I was in junior high with.
Yeah, I just know them here from when they've had public meetings, you know, and just to be clear, I had no other interest in they're the general county resident.
Yeah, we put agreement on that. Temporarily fix it.
Like it's something, like I say, just allow propane. Drugs in there. I mean, to get,
Propane's one thing, but any of them can have an emergency and we're gonna have an ambulance get up there, you know,
Yeah.
and so. Or fire, you know, this time of year, so.
oh yeah, up to the, over the trees up there.
Do we have consensus?
Yeah, that,
That's fine.
that's just that, right, we'll write a letter to go
We'll have it fixed before he writes his letter.
Okay.
Maybe not at the stove. Reminder, annual township meeting, March 12th.
Right.
I'll need I think a welcome from the commissioner here.
Yeah.
Probably, and then Evan's working on benefit district rates that is coming to you. As water rates increase and some of these others are struggling with that. So unfortunately, they're coming. Thank you.
Commission, Bryant Parker, County Councilor, very quickly, don't have anything to report in the, apart from that, we're very busy. And, I feel happy that we're getting a lot of things. We're helping a lot of departments to get a lot of things accomplished, which is our mandate. And with that, I'll stand for any questions that commissioners might have. Thank you very much.
Too long. Right. Yeah. Far away.
Hello. Vivian Leyva, Public Information Officer for Riley County, and here today just to talk about our existing logo use guidelines to provide a little clarity and some background information. So I will start with what I sent in the memo. Do we call them memos here? That's the word that pops into my mind, the memos. So back in 2000, Riley County hired S&N Design to create an official logo and logo use manual. And the manual specifies logo colors, placement, acceptable layouts, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail when we go through I made a little PowerPoint for education about what the current guidelines actually are. And then that was approved by the board in October 2000, and the resolution is also attached to your packet. I think when I first started here, maybe my first year, we floated the idea of a logo redesign. That's something that my predecessor Alice had explored. And that idea was very quickly given a thumbs down by the department heads as well as the commission, because it's cost prohibitive. It would mean I didn't do the math for all the signs and vehicles and business cards and everything that would need to be redone, but it's a significant cost to rebrand. When the policy was first adopted, the Riley County Administrative Services Office was tasked with enforcing standards and maintaining all of the files. So kind of back when you had to request like a physical copy of the logo to get it placed on something. And then with staffing changes in 2005, enforcement kind of became a task that each department monitored separately. And as the result, several additional logos, logo layouts, colors, and fonts have emerged over the years, which actually do not comply with the approved guidelines. Some departments and programs created their own logos and color schemes and layouts. And one example, since that's kind of directly under my purview, was the website logo and layout. That redesign happened the year before I got here. But I was around when the logo, when the website was approved to go live. And staff actually took the initiative to create the colors and establish the fonts and give approval, but that was actually never brought before the commission for direct approval. So the current logo on our website is not an approved use. This spring, they're on schedule with Civic Plus to do a website refresh. So we'll need to decide how to proceed with that. Having one color and one font that is actually not ADA compliant for website use is something that's going to need to be changed with some modernization of the logo policies, which is what we're hoping to address with the committee. Kind of back to, so all departments right now are operating under the same visual identity to reinforce the message that they are part of a single cohesive government working for the public. And then the current direction is to follow the approved logo policy. It's the only one that has gone before the commission and been approved. So then the discussion. It's important to maintain a unified and consistent visual identity for creating a recognizable presence in the community. And the public information officer, which is me, I've been providing guidance and training to departments on proper logo use according to the current standards. I also request permission to draft an updated version in collaboration and cooperation with department heads. And then recognizing, and this has been part of the discussion that's come in front of you all recently, that certain county departments may require additional logos or layouts as part of their official representation due to national or state recognized programs. And those logos, like the Star of Life, provide a clear connection to their specific functions and enhance public trust. So a vehicle that pulls up, it can be a box like an ambulance, and it has the Star of Life on it. That is a standard that's recognized really worldwide. So I have a list of those that are currently using alternate logos. So the WIC program for nutrition services, that is a national standard, and they are required to comply with that. And then the Star of Life for emergency medical service, and then the Maltese Cross, which is also, again, an international standard for internationally recognized symbol for fire services. So as far as financial impact, developing modern guidelines will be done in-house and will not require any additional budget. And enforcement of the guidelines to this point has applied to all new materials and documents. Departments have not been required to replace their existing materials. Department heads can make that choice. But instead of just kind of throwing away everything you have in every business card, we ask that moving forward, when you purchase new items, that you make sure they comply with the existing standards. I know I want to step into a little bit, that's a copy of the existing resolution. This is the existing manual. I'm just going to scroll past that and go to the kind of educational materials that I've prepared. Oh, here's a quick. And you have this in your packet as well. So this branding guideline was created for the 2022 website refresh. And these colors are not approved in the logo use guidelines, and this layout of the logo is not approved in those fonts, etc. So I'm trying to get see here. Okay, so what are we working with right now? So my goal today is just to clarify what the existing guidelines are, so you have a good understanding of that. And you can see there are very specific layout options that are somewhat limiting, but they do reinforce unity of the message. By and large, and this, I guess this was just kind of a funny thing I pointed out, the manual specifies that everything has to be right justified, except the cover of the manual has it in the wrong place. So just, we need to modernize a little bit and encourage some consistency where maybe it wasn't in the past. So in the Riley County logo may be reproduced in blue and black, black and gray, or all white. The official Pantone color is number 3015.
While RGB, CMYK, or hex codes really haven't been specified, very few places use that Pantone. It's like it's a way to describe a specific mix for a printer ink color. And that's not really what's used anymore. And we have approximations of the Pantone color for these other uses like digital and print just on your Xerox printer. But the flexibility and writing those specifics out would ensure they stay the same. And then I use an all black. I do not use a black and 50% gray like you see in the black and white image. According to the manual, you cannot reproduce it in all black, but I think that is a common use that would serve us to go ahead and allow.
The rest are now if you would like.
And then as far as fonts and alignments, Gaudi and Gaudi Bold are allowed. And if you are using a program that does not have those fonts, Times New Roman is the only other font that can be used. And it's not just for the way I interpreted the manual, it's for the heading and the content of all letters and communication. Digitally, like I spent a couple of weeks doing my emails in Gaudi, and it is very hard to read in digital form. So kind of choosing some alternate fonts and hopefully choosing fonts that will align with our website presence. I did some research, and the most common government fonts to use are Arial and Times New Roman. They're the easiest to use, they're good standards, and that's what I would propose moving forward as we address updates. In the manual, you notice clothing and apparel. The only approved colors are white, gray, black, or neutral colors. So no shirts are permitted in the manual of any other color to have the logo printed on them except white, black, gray, or neutral colors. So you couldn't have a blue
You
shirt.
couldn't have the blue embroidery on it.
No,
with,
sure,
like-
it's
like
You can
showing.
have the blue
Can't do
embroidery,
embroidery.
but you can't have a blue shirt. So
Oh,
maybe looking at some of those restrictions and applying them differently. And again, I agree, and it is of utmost importance to have a unified appearance. Like Coca-Cola doesn't allow you to mess with their brand. A brand is a very specific set of rules for visual identity, and that's important. But understanding that, does it serve our brands to not allow blue shirts? I'm not sure. We can evaluate those things, certainly. And then as far as vehicles are concerned, that's an image from the manual, but of course they have to be placed on flat surfaces if possible. You don't want to distort the logo. The manual says deviation is allowed for statutory requirements. I'm not sure what specific statutes they're referencing, but the goal is to maximize visibility to the public. And with all things, we want people to recognize that this is an official county vehicle. This is an official county staff person who is showing up to do official county business. Okay. And our employees and residents should easily recognize our staff members, our vehicles, and the services we provide. That's ultimately the goal. Okay, I think that's about it. Can I answer any questions?
Yeah, like I say, it doesn't be written this way that the way that policy's written is Brian's in charge.
Yeah.
And he went and ran away when I mentioned that.
That's correct. That's correct.
Did Clancy not give you your badge in Super Soaker?
Yeah, I didn't think to pull that out, but
It's in the break room. I can show you where it's at.
I could
Duties
think,
start, other duties as assigned. So.
Yeah.
all I can think of is that knowing what my skills are in the visual arts, which is none, I could think of no worse person to help administer this than myself. So
But, and you said Gaudi's required, but it says it's preferable to use
Mhm.
Gaudi. It doesn't say it's required. It says
It
it's the type that is preferable to use is Gaudi or Gaudi Bold. If not available, essentially Times Roman or similar style. So
So there is some leeway there, but
It didn't
it's similar
say-
style of stereotype.
And,
Yeah.
and if that's, and I don't even know what, is this written in Gowdy?
Even I wouldn't know.
I don't think it is. I think
I
it's
think
times.
Is there
New
something
Roman.
that times New Roman?
Yeah.
Well, no.
So
I said because Gaudy's too hard to read, like you were saying.
The other thing that kind of bothers me is this right hand lettering has to be on the right side. To me, it should be the other, on the left side or centered.
Well, and they did that. I
It
think the
looks
justification was that it, because the R is a little off balance, that you have to, you
Yeah,
align right to bring it into balance. And they did it throughout, except on the cover where they aligned it left.
yeah.
Mhm.
I have it aligned left with the R,
Yes.
makes sense.
Mhm. Looks neater.
Yep, the bottom of the
Then when
R.
it's,
Mhm.
that, when it's thrown off to the right.
Mhm.
And they had for letterhead that you, so you align the text with that bottom section of the R, which I think looks clean.
Yeah, and it's really, I know I've had some letters printed and it seems like it's this far to your address line. It's ridiculous. It's like they go, and it must be because of that.
With the logo box. blocks
Yeah, the
out down
logo's
that
at the
far.
bottom.
Oh.
But it's, and then there's a lot of spaces below that too, before you get to the address box, so.
First commission I served with, Russ Fry, Jim Williams.
Yeah, it's going.
You know Jim Williams? His son is the one that owned the homes store furniture place behind Briggs. He just retired.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Son.
okay.
Jim was in like implement sales prior to he was a private businessman
Oh, okay.
and owned businesses. He owned that store first.
Oh, okay, because I know the son.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it's,
The, the big problem that's come up to me, but not from for me, I've been told by several people. They decided when they put the R on the shirt, you're not allowed to put the name of the business or name, or not the name, the department.
Department.
Except it showed it, one of your slides showed it with the department under it.
The sign can have,
On a shirt, he's talking on a shirt.
Yeah.
But I thought even on the ones where you were, your presentation, the next one down, I thought showed something.
I've seen them with the department.
Well, I know, but they've been told they can't. do
Yeah,
it.
that's the thing is
Yeah.
this hasn't been followed. So yeah, you are gonna find those things that aren't allowed in the policy because so many
It
new
makes
department
sense.
heads aren't even aware.
To me, it makes sense to put the department, see, just because somebody's from Riley County
Mhm.
or the Public Works, Health Department appraisers, you know.
my jacket has the R and public information officer under it because I wasn't aware before, like when I ordered that.
But
So
I think,
Have a jacket.
we just need to specify.
I think it needs to be allowed. I mean, to me, it makes sense that they could specify what department, because just because it's Riley County, you don't know. Because really, the people that need those are like the appraiser or health department, people that
Mhm.
go out, when somebody comes up to my, go in my house, I want to know who it is.
Yeah, they're knocking on your door for very
Mhm.
different reasons. If
Right.
we need to inspect your septic tank, or we're here for
Well, yeah, planning. or
childcare
something.
licensing. or-
Yeah, and then you know if you want to answer the door.
Don't answer it ever. Go away.
And it's important to know your public works directors from Riley County, not Finney County.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Matt or from Manhattan.
Don't mean any policy.
That's all punching down.
I know, somebody at the front door, I don't answer it, because nobody comes to our front door, everybody comes to the back door, and that's where the
And that's
garage
the first
is,
sign that
the
I don't know
driveway.
you.
Then we have the front door, I don't wonder what that, unless it's a UPS truck parked in front of the house, then you know, and they just stop and run, but.
Yeah, they don't anymore. Mine just leave the package.
Every once in a while, they'll ring our doorbell, but sometimes they don't.
Well, they used to ring, except our doorbell broke, so we don't have.
Well, I think it's because they use a tracking system, they send you a text.
Yeah.
So they let you know, hey, your package is here.
Oh,
And
yeah,
some
but
people
you
don't want to
can't
be
do that.
disturbed, like, hey, you woke the baby and leave the dogs bark. Just
Yeah, my
watching.
dog
It's
goes
all
nuts
for-
when somebody comes to the door.
My son's house, they each had a sign, don't ring the doorbell,
Don't
when
ring.
the kids were little. Baby could be sleeping, don't ring the doorbell. They had it on the.
People
school door.
generally read it right after they hit the.
That's right. Maybe so, I don't know.
And
Yeah, there's
actually,
definitely cleanup needed in that policy.
Okay.
yeah, and technically, I realized this after the fact. This logo with the white lettering is not
Mhm.
allowed.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
That's 'cause it's
adjusting some of those things so they make sense and they apply to the uses that we
And I guess it was
currently.
pretty random for that
And
they
you
were
gotta
trying to
remember-
consolidate it, but
And you gotta remember, this is 25 years ago. That's a quarter of a century, so yeah, it's well overdue.
it's-
We're not gonna be using one Riley County, are we? They're just gonna use Riley County.
Just Riley County.
Good.
I have one thing to add, Lee, and I think I mentioned this in the county officials luncheon, right? I am overly focused on making sure that if we have a first responder vehicle that needs to be like a certain color or say something on it, that we do that. I think that's where the like compliance with statute comes from, because I want to say, you know how you have like formative experiences in your career? I remember sitting through some damn program in 08 about how Homeland Security came out and said, you got to be able to see a truck through the fire. So that would, I mean, and I don't think this would ever affect any of that, like if our trucks need to be red or whatever. But that's the only thing I would add, is that if we need to have like a truck be a certain color or whatever, I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the logo. That's all. That's all.
There is
Color,
statute
can you
about
see
logos
white?
on county vehicles
Yeah,
that identify the county
yeah.
that vehicle belongs to.
Because the cities are white and they have blue lettering on most of them, blue or black.
Uh-huh.
And, I have to really read when I go, oh, is this the city or the county out here?
Yeah.
I have to really look at the side of the door to see.
They're transferring theirs over to the new logo, which is the Manhattan with the little apple and
Oh, okay.
and it's kind of a maroon color, I think. Yeah. It doesn't stand out real well, but if you look close enough, you can see it.
Well, the color for us maybe.
But possibly, to your point, to include is probably specifics for anything that another department is using. So the red that is allowable for trucks and the logo layout that's allowable for the other things too, should probably be included.
And I'm not saying that we have to do that, right? I'm just saying that that's one thing that we may want to make sure that we don't run afoul of. Is if it's like something's got to be painted some color or whatever, we don't want to create something that we've got to immediately go around this. And that's all I have.
There was no motion to make here. was there?
No, it was just an update on how we got here, the history and where we're at. And I guess the one thing is if the board would like us to pursue, as Vivian put it in here, modernization and consistent application and probably logo guideline revisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's up to the board. I think all of you kind of said that, but
Yeah, obviously. It's dated,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I still want Ryan in charge.
I thought we were getting along so well, Commissioner.
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, if we do have an issue, it's gonna be specific to the policy, so it's gonna take a legal,
Sure.
fixing the policies and updating is one thing, but then the enforcement part of it's gonna
Yeah.
I think
probably
I'm
require
pretty
the legal
intimidated.
side of, yeah.
And that
probably
was,
makes sense.
and that was one thing I was gonna say, is that I think there's a distinction between administration and
Yeah,
enforcement,
yeah.
right? So if there is a question about interpretation, yeah, I mean, how, it's just one more thing.
That's why we pay you the big bucks, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner. Happy to do this.
make sure what I wrote down, Greg, sounds about right. The board agreed by consensus to modernize, revise, and update the Riley County logo policy for consistent application.
Like the wordsmith there, I like that.
Sounds
I like
good.
that.
Thank you very much.
Household harmful waste and leave department. That you couldn't put that on the left because the end wouldn't line. Page. It's really, that's a funny one.
Abbreviate.
Then you just spell it out and that's if we're going to align everything.
Well, they know it's officially noxious weed. And I think there's another place that it talks about the development of,
That's no longer the name for it.
yeah, it's about IT, calls IT, that's different than what it is now. Digital information services, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I love this one. Avoid distorting the logo and you look at the picture.
Yeah, that picture, that's, I was looking at that on the screen, I was like, holy moly. Need to get my eyes checked.
Oh, yeah, that, you know,
Well, distortion. Yeah, this is very outdated. That truck is really.
We're still in that truck.
Funny thing is, we probably do. Well, okay. I don't have anything else. No, I don't. Be safe out there over the next couple of days. It sounds like we're gonna get some bad weather.
We shall see.
Hopefully we'll get all that snow.
Ugh,
We haven't even gotten rid of it all yet.
No,
no.
Oh, well. Okay.
but they don't put it in the dam. They just leave it in the water.
I was thinking yesterday, my hardest part after it snows is to remember, especially around my dog kennels, where the ice is that's still underneath
Oh,
that
yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
Because now at least I can see it.
and that's, he was talking about knocking out the mailboxes. They didn't knock out mailbox. But they didn't, because it's set back from the road, they plowed it, so there was
Can't
a,
get to
there
it.
was a thing this far in front of it, but they didn't come back. Come back the next day and hit all the mailboxes and scoop them out, so there. Because there were a couple of days that the post office said, we can't get there.
Well,
And
they
I
do.
understood that, but the city did come back and make a scoop around each mailboxes to get them. They really built a dam around them.
It didn't get me hope for about a week. The city piled all this. I mean, there was a bank this high. I had to wait till it kind of came down for it and crawl up on there and see if there was anything.
Our public works crew actually did take a county commissioner's mailbox out one time. Commissioner Bob Boyd lived out of.
Oh, yeah, I can
402,
see that. I can see that, yeah.
Out in the county.
Okay, I go ahead and make a motion that we adjourn the February 10th meeting of the Riley County Commissioners.
I would second that.
So moved and seconded to adjourn the February 10th meeting of the Riley County Commissioners, all in favor?
Aye.
Go Cats.